Oh, hi everyone, it's me, David, I'm back. You may not recognise me because I haven't made a video in about 9 months. It's because I've been having a baby. I was with child. I have now had the child. No, I'm kidding, guys, I'm kidding. I was just lazy as fuck and couldn't be bothered to do one. However, all that has changed because here I am back again, sat in front of my camera for you, my beloved and passionate subscribers. So I thought for my first video back, after such a long absence, I should fill you in on all of those films that I've seen over the past 9 months, ranking them from worst to best. But then I thought, David, 16 films is quite a lot of films, and you do have a tendency to ramble on for fucking ages. I mean, I've made numerous videos over 20 minutes long, and, you know, according to my YouTube analytics, people only watch the first 58 seconds before the sound of my voice just gets too much to bear, and I assume they kill themselves. So I'm only going to have 16 minutes to talk about the past 9 months of films. It's going to be a bit of a challenge. I'm expecting to be deeply stressed throughout, so just bear with me if I do fall into a severe mental breakdown. So, without further ado, let's start the clock. Okay, so at number 16 is The Dark Tower. Look, this film has had some really scathing reviews, and I wouldn't say that it is completely without merit. In fact, there are some things in the first act of the movie which I actually quite liked. I liked the little boy running away from the demon people through the city. I thought that was actually not bad at all. I liked it when he found the interdimensional portal and fights the weird wood monster. Like, that was all okay. It was when he goes through the portal, enters the little desert land, meets up with Idris Elba, who is not good in this movie at all. From that point it all just kind of deteriorates and just gets worse and worse and worse, culminating in one of the most horrendous final battle sequences that I've ever seen. It's between Matthew McConaughey's Man in Black and Idris Elba's The Gunslinger. I just don't know what they were thinking. It just looks awful, it's not exciting in the slightest. It's just absolutely horrendous. What I will say as well is if you're thinking of seeing this movie, I hope you like that little "he who shoots with his hand has forgotten the face of his father" speech from the trailer, because they say it roughly every 5 minutes, and like, frankly, I don't even know what it means. It just sounds really dumb, a little bit cringy. And that's exactly what it is. So, moving swiftly onwards, at number 15, we've got Atomic Blonde, and I have to say it breaks my heart to place Atomic Blonde so low on this list, because I was super excited for this movie. I love the John Wick movies, I love Charlize Theron. This should have been great, but instead it was awful. The plot is largely incomprehensible. I don't understand it at the time, and I don't really understand it now. What I will say as well is that I don't think Charlize Theron is very good in this movie. I think she's kind of sleepwalking through it, with the exception of the action sequences where she suddenly comes alive. The action sequences are definitely the highlight of the movie. There's one in particular towards the end which is amazing. However, there's just not enough of them, quite frankly, and the plot isn't interesting enough to sustain the non-action parts. James McAvoy and Sofia Boutella are okay in this movie, but aside from them and the action sequences, there's really nothing here. At number 14, Resident Evil: The Final Chapter. One of my most anticipated movies of the year, believe it or not, and it did let me down. Look, all I'm saying is for the final chapter, why wouldn't you bring back all of the surviving characters from the previous movie? It would add stakes. You'd need less character development because they're already developed. But instead they just bring in a cast of complete no-names, characters that are completely underdeveloped. They all get killed off one by one, as you would expect, and no one gives a shit, because no one knows who these people are. They're a bunch of strangers. The only people who aren't are Claire and Allison. Yeah, they do alright. Mila Jovovich and Ali Larter are good in these movies. As are Ian Glenn and Sean Roberts in the villainous roles. I actually think that they're quite fun in a chewing the scenery kind of way. But, look, it's only passable. It gets a passing grade, a C-, and I kind of expected more from the final film in the Resident Evil franchise. I've been following it for too long, and it's just a shame. On a sentimental level, it didn't quite live up to what I had in my heart. But anyway, moving swiftly onwards, at number 13 we've got Split. Look, I've already talked extensively about Split, so I'm not going to talk about it too much here, but I will say that I think that the link to Unbreakable was dumb. I'm not particularly excited for an Unbreakable sequel, and I just think the film had no payoff towards the end, which is a shame because it had a lot of great tension in the early parts and it just kind of went nowhere. Anyway, number 12, Alien Covenant. People are very eager to shit on Alien Covenant, and frankly, I thought it was actually okay. It is a bit slow at the beginning, and I think that the characters do lack development. That being said, I think there are a lot of great parts, particularly after Michael Fassbender's character David enters the film. I think he's the only carryover from Prometheus, which I actually quite liked. He's just such a great character, possibly one of the best characters this franchise has ever produced. He is so creepy, he's actually rivals the xenomorph itself in terms of just sheer creepiness. I think the film really perks up from that point, and I actually really like the sequel that it sets up as well, but whether we're actually going to see it or not is another matter, because this film did not do particularly well at the box office. I think it's a shame that Ridley Scott did away with so many elements from Prometheus. This is definitely more of an Alien film than a Prometheus sequel, and then people shit on it for not sharing enough of Prometheus, but then they also shout Prometheus, so you're really stuck between a rock and a hard place here, and I don't really know what the correct answer is. But anyway, Alien Covenant, passable, better than Alien 3. And number 11, it's Death Note. And look, I haven't read the original mangas, I can't speak about what this film may or may not have changed, but what I will say is that I think it was passable. It was a passable adaptation. I can't get super excited about it, but also I can't say that I disliked it. I think Nat Wolff was okay in the lead. I think that the girl from 13 Reasons Why was alright. I think their romance was a little bit forced. It felt very rushed. And I find it also very hard to believe that two people who are obsessed with death would find each other so easily and just bond so quickly over killing people in really grisly ways. It feels like it would take a while to find someone just as fucked up as you are. But anyway, no, it was fine. Willem Dafoe was really the highlight of the movie. I think he did a great job. And I love that he's embraced the fact that he does look like a demon, just naturally, you know? It must have been a really weird thing for him to come to terms with. I think my biggest problem with Death Note is that Adam Wingard's career isn't going in the direction that I'd hoped. I thought he was going to be on the up and up after The Guest and You're Next, which are both great. But instead, I don't know, he just seems to be making only okay films. I haven't seen the Blair Witch reboot, apparently it's shit. This is only okay. He seems to have gone downhill, he's going in the wrong direction. This film is visually interesting, but there's not really a message behind it, which I think you should really be able to do some interesting messages with the idea of the Death Note, which is obviously really fucked up. But instead it's just very surface level and kind of bland. Anyway, at number 10, we have Dunkirk. This is a film, everybody just wants to suck Christopher Nolan's dick, but I'm not doing it, okay? Dunkirk, it's fine. It's a competently put together movie. Aside from that, that's about as much as I can say about it. Look, it's historically accurate for the most part, but apparently they have been racially insensitive. I'll let you look that up in your own time, because I don't have time to talk about it here. Look, it's fine. Like, I just don't get why everyone's so excited about it. Like, it's a okay recreation of a very tragic event that happened, but that's about as much as I can say about it. Harry Styles was very distracting in the movie, because look, he wasn't bad. He didn't do a bad performance, but at the same time, just seeing him takes you out of the movie, because it's like everybody else is relatively unknown, apart from Cillian Murphy and what's his name, Tom Hardy. But then you just suddenly see, like, oh, worldwide pop star, what the fuck's he doing on Dunkirk Beach in 1941, or whenever it was. So, you know, Dunkirk, it's fine. Dunkirk, it's fine. It's a solid 6 out of 10 movie, and some people will get really ragey at me for saying that, but that's just what I think. Anyway, number 9, Wonder Woman. From one world war to another, this one only marginally more interesting, despite the fact that it involves a superhuman goddess. But no, look, Wonder Woman was a good movie, I will say that. I did enjoy it, but I do think that it fell apart in the third act a little bit. It does, you know, have the same problem that Batman v Superman did a little bit, where the final act is just a CGI fuckfest. Which is a shame, because up until that point it had been relatively restrained. But, you know, that doesn't completely discredit the rest of the movie. There is a lot of good stuff there. I really like the relationship between Diana Prince and Steve Trevor is actually really good. And normally I'm the type of person who says, just cut out the romantic subplot. Nobody gives a fuck about a romantic subplot. But in this one I think it was actually quite endearing, and I did quite like it. Yeah. No, it was good. It was good. Wonder Woman, it was absolutely fine. At number 8, I've got John Wick Chapter 2. Now, I was actually surprised that this movie was so good, because I was expecting a John Wick sequel to be, you know, worse than the original, and just kind of pushing its luck a little bit. But no, it was good. I really enjoy just, like, the mythology of the John Wick universe, you know, like this shady underworld of assassins is just absolutely fascinating to me. I think the John Wick character, look, he is just B-movie cheese at its best, but there's something very fun about it, you know, and the other characters in the movie are, you know, not too bad. I like Ian McShane's character. I think, what's his name? Isn't he like a rapper or something? Isn't like Coolio or something in this movie? I don't know. He's fine, whatever his name is. I really like the sequence in Italy. I really like the sequence towards the end. This is the thing what I really like about this movie is each action sequence really has a life of its own. They always find new ways to make it interesting, whether that's by like having two people on either side of a fountain, or like they're on a train, or like it's just very creative, and I really, really applaud the stuntmen and women behind this movie. The people who choreographed the action sequences, like, I really think they did a fantastic job. At number 7 is War for the Planet of the Apes. I will say this, I don't think it was as good as Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It didn't really hook me in quite as quickly. Maybe that was due to the fact that I had a little girl in the row above me. For the first half of the movie, she was talking through it. For the second half of the movie, she was crying. Look, don't take your 8-year-old to a movie rated 12A. How about that? Like, it's not rocket science. Anyway, yeah, War for the Planet of the Apes was good, though. It's a very smart and sophisticated trilogy of movies, and I don't think any of us really expected it to be such a good trilogy, because Planet of the Apes is kind of a goofy concept, but they really, like, modernized it, used it as a vehicle to really drive home some quite hard-hitting messages about war, and prejudices, and things like that. So, yeah, obviously Andy Serkis is absolutely incredible, the motion capture work is amazing, the visual effects are amazing, but yeah, it was just lacking something that I think Dawn of the Planet of the Apes had, and I'm not sure what that was. I think maybe the lack of human characters didn't help, you know, because it does help to have a few human protagonists in there, so that we have something human to latch onto, because as great as the visual effects on the monkeys are, they are visual effects, and I think on some level our brain knows that. At number 6 we've got Spider-Man Homecoming. I wasn't particularly excited about Spider-Man Homecoming because I think the character of Spider-Man is a bit of a dickhead, but I do think that they've toned down those aspects for his MCU incarnation and really amped up the more endearing elements, and as a result Spider-Man Homecoming was a fun movie. I mean, it is very much just another product of the MCU assembly line, so I'm not going to hype up its artistic integrity too much, but I will say, if you want a fun way to spend 2 hours, you can do a lot worse than Spider-Man Homecoming. Actually had a decent villain, actually had a few good surprises, despite the fact that the trailers were numerous, and most of them seemed very revealing. But, yeah, no, Spider-Man Homecoming was not a bad one. And I will say that the third act as well, I think I preferred the third act of Homecoming to the third act of Wonder Woman because it felt like it didn't, you know, overstep its boundaries. It felt quite small scale all the way through, didn't feel the need to ramp it up to ridiculous levels right at the end, which I respect. At number 5 we've got... Excuse me, at number 5 we've got Okja, or Okja, or however the fuck you're meant to say it. I mean, really, it's anybody's guess. This movie was not really on my radar prior to it popping up on my Netflix account, but it was really good. I'm going to cut this short a little bit because I'm running out of time like nobody's business. But what I will say is that good performances. Tilda Swinton is a standout because she's fantastic in everything. The Super Pig was such good visual effects. Like, you really believed it was real, despite the fact that it does look a little bit ridiculous initially. Also, what will I say? Oh yeah, vegan messaging. Look, there's a lot of like vegan, vegetarian messages coming through on this movie. I'm not gonna lie, I'm still not a vegetarian, and it's unlikely that I'm gonna become one anytime soon, but I will say that this movie did make me think, did make me a little bit horrified at certain elements. It gets super dark, and I think I think it really traverses the different tones quite well. Some people thought it was jarring, I thought it was actually very effective. Anyway, must move on. Number 4 is Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. I invested in that poster because that's how much I fucking love it. Look, this movie did not deserve to bomb at the box office. It was creative, the people involved in it really cared, it wasn't just another heartless, shameless cash grab. Look, I can't really talk about it for too long because I am down to like 2.5 minutes, folks. But what I will say is this. Go see it. Ignore the bad reviews because they're fucking bullshit, alright? It's super weird, but it's Luc Besson at his finest. I really enjoyed it. A very creative movie. With flaws, but, you know, so most movies have flaws. Like, don't let that bog you down. At number 3, we've got Baby Driver. Again, a very creative movie. Lots of attention to detail. It must have been a complete fucking ball ache to choreograph all of the scenes to go perfectly with all of these different songs. But I respected Edgar Wright for doing it. I mean, we expect that from him at this point, that he has such great attention to detail. It really just, it always pays off because you can tell when someone's heart is really into a project. Baby Driver, a really fun movie with a satisfying ending, lots of great car chases, good performances. Ansel Elgort, wasn't really familiar with him before this movie, but now I will be keeping an eye on his career. John Hamm and Kevin Spacey, also great. Jamie Foxx was a real dickhead in the movie, but, you know, he plays a dickhead quite well. At number 2, we've got Logan. Wasn't really expecting to like this movie. I thought it was being dark and gritty for the sake of being dark and gritty and without any actual real message to say. That was my preconceived notion, but then when I actually went to see it, I was fucking wrong. It was really, really effective. It was quite dark and depressing, and at times it risked getting a little bit too dark and depressing, but I do think that for most of the film there are little like nuggets of optimism to pick up if you really look for them. Obviously the action sequences are great. Daphne Keane, what an amazing debut performance. Patrick Stewart, great in the film. Hugh Jackman, great in the film. Very sad towards the end, I'm not going to lie. I was on the brink of tearing up. Didn't quite get there, but it was a close call. And anyway, speaking of getting close to tearing up, number 1 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This is a film that I did not expect to nearly make me cry, but it nearly did, because my lord, that ending is real sad. But up to that point, it's just super funny. I think it's way funnier than the first film. Great action sequences, great villain with Kurt Russell. Just a great team dynamic. I'm very excited about the Guardians of the Galaxy movies now, which is saying a lot because I didn't particularly like the first one. Guys, 2, 1... Aww, I thought it was going to play the jazzy tune. Let's play it anyway. It's going to be my victory theme. Because I did it, guys. 16 minutes. It was a close call. It was a close call as well. I was down to my last few seconds there. Look, that was absolutely exhausting. I'm actually sweating quite a bit. What I will say is, I don't think I'll be doing that again. Because that was stressful, and I didn't really get to say everything that I wanted to say, but I like to think that I squeezed in as much as possible there. So anyway, thank you for watching my triumphant return to YouTube. You may have seen earlier this year, in January, or was it early February, we celebrated the 5th year anniversary of this channel. That's right, I've actually been doing this for 5.5 years. So I think it's overdue that I am going to become viral and become a professional YouTuber. So you don't want to miss out on that, do you? So you better hit subscribe now so you can be ahead of the curve and you can brag to all your friends about how you knew me before I was cool. Let's face it, I'm never going to be cool, am I? I'll give up on that one. But I might be YouTube famous very soon, so that's a real possibility. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'm David Craig. This is Movies and Cool Stuff. Subscribe, for the love of God.